My perfect life was destroyed when I discovered my wife's infidelity. Here's what happened. For as long as I can remember, I had always believed in the idea of a perfect life. I had what many would consider a dream setup: an amazing wife, a stable career, a nice house, and a circle of friends who often praised how great we were as a couple. I loved my wife, Emma, deeply, and we had been married for 6 years. It was the kind of life that made me feel secure, almost untouchable. Little did I know, this picture-perfect life was just an illusion. Everything started to crumble when I began noticing subtle changes in Emma's behavior. At first, they were so small that I thought I was overreacting. But with time, I began to feel like something was off. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I couldn't ignore the nagging feeling that something was wrong. It started with her spending more time on her phone, sometimes late into the night. At first, I shrugged it off. She had her hobbies, and gaming was one of them. We had our own lives, and that's fine, right? But over time, I realized these were not the innocent late-night sessions I had become accustomed to. She seemed more distant, more absorbed in something or someone that wasn't me. I thought I was just overthinking it. After all, people don't just go from a happy, stable marriage to cheating, right? But as the signs continued to stack up, I found myself spiraling into doubt and confusion. What was really happening in my marriage? What was Emma hiding from me? In this video, I'll share how my perfect life was turned upside down when I uncovered my wife's infidelity. I'll take you through the entire painful journey of discovering her affair, confronting her, and dealing with the emotional aftermath. Our life together had always seemed like the ideal love story. Emma and I met in college. I was drawn to her creativity and warmth, and she appreciated my steady, calm demeanor. We made each other better, or at least that's how it felt. We both had great jobs. I worked as an IT consultant, and Emma was a talented graphic designer. Our careers were fulfilling, and while we were busy, we made sure to always prioritize our relationship. Our friends constantly told us how great we were as a couple. They'd say, "You two seem so in sync." We took vacations together, went on weekend getaways, and had date nights every week. Even during our most challenging times, we made it through with communication and compromise. Sure, there were moments of tension, like any relationship, but they were nothing we couldn't handle. We were truly happy. I was convinced we had built something indestructible. I never questioned our relationship. I had no reason to. In my mind, I was living the life that most people dream of: a loving wife, a stable job, and a home full of warmth. It felt solid. Safe. But as the years passed, life began to change. Our routine became predictable. I started noticing Emma's behavior shifting, but I brushed it off. She was busy with work, and I was too focused on my own tasks to notice anything that seemed out of place. In hindsight, I see that the signs were always there. She was slowly pulling away. Maybe I had been too caught up in our shared life to notice the cracks forming beneath the surface. It all started with small, seemingly harmless changes. Emma began spending more time on her phone, often late at night. I didn't think much of it at first. After all, she had her gaming hobby that she enjoyed. Emma had always been part of online gaming communities, and I had never been concerned. But it wasn't long before I started noticing a shift in her behavior. The late-night sessions became more frequent, and her attention seemed to be completely consumed by her screen. One night, as I walked into the living room, I caught her laughing, a real, deep belly laugh. The kind of laughter she usually reserved for moments of joy. She quickly shut her laptop and turned to me with a smile, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. She hadn't been this engrossed in gaming in a long time. I didn't think much of it at first, but the nagging feeling in the back of my mind wouldn't go away. Who was she laughing with? What was so funny that she had to hide it from me? The next few weeks were filled with more subtle signs. Emma would glance quickly at her phone whenever I walked into the room, as if she was trying to hide something. She started getting defensive about her online friends, becoming unusually secretive about who she was talking to. Whenever I asked her about her gaming sessions, she'd say it was just for fun and that there was nothing to worry about. But I couldn't ignore the growing distance between us. She seemed more distant, colder. And I, unfortunately, was too oblivious at first to understand what was happening. The moment everything changed came when I walked into the living room one evening and caught Emma off guard. She was sitting at her desk, as usual, headphones on, engrossed in something on her computer. I had become suspicious by this point, so I quietly walked over and looked at her screen. What I saw will stay with me forever. It wasn't just a gaming chat or a group conversation. It was a private message thread between her and someone I knew, Mark, a guy from her work. I froze. My stomach sank as I read the messages. They were flirtatious, emotional, and intimate. I saw hearts, promises of, "I miss you," and declarations of affection. There was no denying it, my wife was emotionally involved with someone else. I was filled with a mixture of anger, hurt, and confusion. I confronted her immediately, demanding the truth. Emma was caught off guard at first, but when she saw the look in my eyes, she knew the jig was up. She tried to deny it at first, but the evidence was irrefutable. When I showed her the messages, she broke down in tears. She confessed that the affair had been going on for several months. They had connected deeply over shared interests, and before she knew it, she had developed feelings for Mark, something she never intended. But it had happened, and she couldn't deny it anymore. I was shattered. The woman I trusted with my heart had been betraying me. Not physically, but emotionally. The pain was different from what I had imagined. It wasn't just about infidelity, it was about a betrayal of the trust and bond we had built together. It was the emotional distance that hurt more than anything. Emma had given someone else the love and attention I thought were exclusively mine. The days after Emma's confession were the hardest of my life. I was filled with a whirlwind of emotions, rage, sadness, confusion, and, perhaps the most painful of all, self-doubt. I couldn't stop replaying everything in my mind. How could I have missed the signs? Was I that blind to what was happening right under my nose? Was it my fault for not being more attentive, more present? I couldn't help but ask myself, what did I do wrong? Had I not given her enough attention? Had I neglected her emotional needs? I felt like a failure. The trust that had once existed between us was shattered, and I didn't know how to fix it. She had emotionally invested in someone else. They had shared intimate thoughts, confided in each other, and built a connection that I had thought was only ours. I couldn't help but feel replaced, inadequate. For days, I was consumed by guilt and self-blame. I found myself questioning who I was as a partner, and whether I had even been good enough for her. I didn't know how to approach her, how to fix the mess we were in. She had hurt me in a way that I never expected, and I didn't know how to process it. Eventually, after the initial shock and anger subsided, Emma and I made the decision to try to work through the pain. We went to therapy together. The process was grueling. Every session seemed to uncover deeper layers of resentment, fear, and unmet needs. It wasn't easy, and at times, it felt like too much to handle. But we both knew that we needed to face our issues head-on if there was any chance of salvaging our relationship. In therapy, we learned that we had both neglected each other in different ways. Emma had sought emotional fulfillment from Mark because she felt emotionally distant from me. She didn't know how to ask for what she needed. I, on the other hand, had been so wrapped up in my work and day-to-day life that I failed to recognize the emotional disconnect between us. Trust, however, was a much harder hurdle to overcome. Every time I saw her on her phone, I couldn't stop myself from wondering if she was talking to him. I was constantly anxious, questioning her every move. I was scared of being hurt again, and that fear sometimes overwhelmed me. But through therapy, I learned that I had to rebuild my own self-worth before I could rebuild the trust in our relationship. Months have passed since Emma's affair, and while our relationship is in a better place, things will never be the same. I've come to realize that the emotional scars left by infidelity are difficult to erase. I don't trust her the way I once did, and I don't think I ever will. But I've also learned that healing is a slow and ongoing process. The affair changed me. It forced me to confront my insecurities, my weaknesses, and my fears. But it also taught me valuable lessons about communication, vulnerability, and the importance of emotional intimacy. Our marriage is not the same as it was before, but we've both grown from this experience. We've rebuilt a new foundation, one that is less naive, but hopefully stronger. Through all the pain, confusion, and heartache, I've come out stronger. I've forgiven Emma, but I've also learned to forgive myself. It's okay to hurt, and it's okay to take time to heal. But above all, I've learned the importance of open communication, trust, and emotional connection in a relationship. If you've gone through something similar, know that you're not alone. Trust can be rebuilt, but it takes time and effort. And remember, sometimes moving forward means choosing what's best for you, whether that's working through the pain together or finding your own path to healing. If you've experienced a betrayal like mine, share your story in the comments. Let's keep this conversation going, and support each other through these tough times. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe for more stories and insights on navigating life's toughest challenges.